Welcome along, fellow time travelers. This time around, we're going to check out the strange history of Sunnyside, the home of Washington Irving. Before I begin, please like and share the show, and subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. Now let's begin our journey. Washington Irving was America's first internationally acclaimed author. He wrote iconic stories like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle, which, as you know, blended Dutch-American folklore with romanticism. By 1835, Irving was America's most celebrated author. His works, like the Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, Gent, earning acclaim in Europe and America. He was a literary celebrity, admired by Charles Dickens and Sir Walter Scott and so many others, and his stories shaped America's cultural identity. This is Sunnyside, his home in Tarrytown, New York. You see, the Hudson Valley in the 1830s to the 1850s was a rural region with small villages, farms, and growing trade via the Hudson River. Tarrytown, with about 2,000 residents, was a lively hub with shops, churches, and taverns, its Dutch-influenced culture blending with emerging suburban growth spurred by the railroad. When you tour Sunnyside, you can see that the landscape was a masterpiece of romantic design. Mr. Irving's team planted trees, shaped hills, and crafted a winding path with a waterfall and rustic bridge, creating a painterly landscape that echoed the Hudson Valley's natural beauty. A massive sycamore, predating the American Revolution, anchored the grounds, while trails offered stunning river views. When Mr. Irving purchased Sunnyside, the estate sat on a peninsula jutting into the Hudson, offering privacy and seclusion. And as you can see, the house itself is a delightful architectural curiosity. Its whimsical blend of Dutch colonial revival, Tudor revival, Scottish Gothic, and Spanish influences, creating a storybook cottage that mirrors the author's imaginative spirit. He purchased it in 1835 for $1,800, and the estate became his sanctuary, where he wrote major works, entertained guests, and shaped a romantic landscape along the Hudson River. Now, Sunnyside began as a modest two-room Dutch stone farmhouse built around the 1690s by a gentleman named Wolfert Acker, though sometimes his last name is spelled differently. But either way, he was a Dutch-American tenant farmer on the Phillipsburg Manor estate. When Mr. Irving acquired the 10-acre property, later expanded to 27 acres by the way, he transformed the utilitarian structure into a romantic retreat. He collaborated with artist George Harvey, and he added crow-step gables, which was a hallmark of Dutch colonial revival architecture. And you got Tudor revival clustered chimneys, reminiscent of English manor houses, and Gothic pointed windows with their ethereal medieval charm that created a striking contrast with the sturdy stone base. In 1847, after his tenure as U.S. Minister to Spain, Mr. Irving introduced a Spanish-inspired tower with stucco walls, a tile roof, and 4 additional bedrooms. This Mediterranean addition, perched atop the Dutch framework, gives the house an asymmetrical, almost fantastical silhouette. It looks kind of cool. Now, the house's strangeness stems from its fearless blending of disparate styles. You got Dutch and Tudor and Gothic and Spanish, each rooted in a different era and culture. Unlike the unified Federal or Greek Revival homes of the period, Sunnyside feels like an architectural collage. I mean, that Spanish tower with its rounded contours clashes delightfully with the angular Dutch gables, while the Gothic windows add a touch of mystery. Wisteria vines planted by Irving drape the entrance, softening the eclectic structure and enhancing its fairy tale-like aura. Washington Irving lived at Sunnyside from 1835, when he was 52, until his death in 1859, when he was 76, though he spent 17 years in Europe as a diplomat in Spain and in England. Now, as you may know, Washington Irving was a lifelong bachelor. He never had a wife. Think of that what you will, but he did have a fiancée once upon a time named Matilda Hoffman. But she died in 1809, leaving him unattached, which they say is why he never bought a home until he was in his 50s. He simply had no reason to. He seemed to enjoy living with friends. Think of that what you will. But either way, he shared Sunnyside with his brother Ebenezer. Yes, his brother's name was Ebenezer. I think that was a pretty common name back then. And Ebenezer's 5 daughters, who managed the household and acted as hostesses. I don't know, what's plural for hostesses? Well, you know what I mean. Anyway, the estate was a creative and social hub, hosting literary figures, politicians, and lots of wealthy neighbors, reflecting Mr. Irving's status as a cultural luminary. At Sunnyside, Mr. Irving produced significant works. The study, with its writing desk, books, and quills, was the heart of his creative process, where he worked late into the night, inspired by the Hudson's serene beauty. Daily life included writing, gardening, and socializing, with Mr. Irving often strolling the grounds or hosting dinners in the parlor. His niece's presence created a warm, familial atmosphere, though Mr. Irving occasionally craved solitude for his work, retreating to the study or the Spanish Tower's quiet rooms. Sunnyside's grounds featured several outbuildings essential to 19th century self-sufficiency. The Ice House, a small stone structure partially built into a hillside, stored ice cut from the Hudson River or a nearby pond that Mr. Irving created by diverting a stream. The Ice House kept food fresh year-round, a necessity before refrigeration. Other outbuildings included a barn for livestock, a carriage house for vehicles and horses, and a root cellar for storing vegetables. And of course there was the, well, you know. These structures, scattered across the 27-acre estate, supported the household's needs and reflected the era's rural lifestyle. Mr. Irving frequently traveled to New York City 25 miles south to meet publishers and friends, likely using a horse-drawn carriage early on, and later the railroad that passed alongside of his house, which was a bit of a nightmare, as you can imagine. After all, who wants a railroad that close? Especially if you're rich and famous and trying to work. Washington Irving died on November 28, 1859, in his bedroom at Sunnyside. He was 76 years old. He passed peacefully after a brief illness, surrounded by family. His death marked the end of a prolific career as an author. Washington Irving was buried in the nearby Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, near the old Dutch church, which, as you know, is associated with the Headless Horseman from Mr. Irving's story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, set in the same area where a fictional ghost haunts the region, linking Washington Irving's legacy to local folklore. As I mentioned, I visited Sunnyside during the last week of August, and my experience could have been ideal had the tour guide not repeatedly told me that I was holding up the tour because I spent an extra 15 seconds, sometimes 20 or 30, taking photos after everyone else had walked a few feet ahead of me. You know, tour guides really should do a better job assisting people like me rather than looking for reasons to complain. I mean, come on, an extra 15 to 30 seconds isn't going to kill anybody on a tour, and the truth is, everybody would probably appreciate not feeling rushed, and videos like this one are actually good for them. They oftentimes encourage people to go to these places themselves and even donate to their upkeep. So spread the word about that, won't you? Oh, and there are seasonal events like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow themed tours that draw in big crowds, especially in autumn and during Halloween, don't you know? In any event, the grounds with their historic outbuildings and river views remain enchanting. And you gotta admit, it's kinda cool to see where the great Washington Irving lived and worked. So, what do you think of Sunnyside? If you're rolling in dough, would you live in a place like that? You know I would. Unless, of course, the Headless Horseman is always riding around. After all, how are you supposed to get any sleep with that going on? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. This channel is sponsored by CampfireShop.com. Do me a favor and check them out, and buy some awesome candles, herbal supplements, teas, and more. Kindly be kind to all of our fellow Earthlings, and please do not harm them. And do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat, or a dog, or both. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, especially if you're traveling through Sleepy Hollow at night, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.